In 1971, a federal agency declared that a Prairie family's homemade sod house violated minimum housing standards. The family had wintered in that earthen shelter for 2 generations, warm at 20 below while the wind screamed across the open plains. The government said it lacked proper materials. The Prairie said it had kept people alive for 100 years. The family stayed put. Here is the part they leave out. The sod house, built from the very ground it stood on, was better insulated than most modern homes. Researchers studying earth-sheltered building now confirm what every Prairie homesteader knew in their bones. Number 16 on this list was effectively regulated out of existence across 41 states, not because it was dangerous, but because it competed with industries that needed you buying instead of making. Number 9 kept families fed through grasshopper plagues that stripped the land bare. These 25 tricks weren't lost because the Prairie tamed itself. They were lost because a nation got comfortable and a regulation followed every old skill into the grave. Your Prairie ancestors carved survival out of grass, wind, and stubbornness, with the nearest town a 2-day wagon ride away. Then a single generation of codes, conveniences, and supermarkets erased it. Before we start, hit subscribe, because this is American history that is vanishing fast. What you are about to learn kept the plains alive. Let us count down. Number 25. The sod house itself. Your great-great-grandfather had no trees on the open prairie, so he built his home from the prairie itself, cutting thick bricks of tough, root-bound sod, and stacking them into walls 3 feet deep. Those earthen walls held warmth in winter and stayed cool in the blistering summer, free of charge, made entirely from the ground he stood on. A soddy cost almost nothing but labor and knowledge. It withstood prairie fires that burned wood frame houses to ash. The roots held it all together like rebar made of grass. Number 24. Buffalo chips for fuel. With no wood for 100 miles, the Prairie family burned what the land gave them: dried buffalo and cattle dung gathered by the bushel and stacked like cordwood by the door. It sounds crude. It was brilliant. Dried chips burned hot, clean, and nearly smokeless, and a season's gathering kept the stove going through the coldest months. The children walked the range with gunny sacks collecting it, and no one thought it strange because it was the difference between a warm house and a frozen one. Number 23. Twisting hay into fire logs. When even the chips ran short in a long winter, your great-great-grandmother twisted prairie hay into tight, dense knots that burned slow and steady in the stove. There was a knack to it, twisting the hay so tightly it couldn't unravel and flash to ash in seconds. A skilled hand could twist hay logs faster than a man could split wood, and during the worst blizzards, that simple skill stood between a family and the cold. Number 22. Reading the sky for blizzards. First pattern break. There was no weather radio on the open plains. Your great-great-grandfather read the sky, the smell of the air, the behavior of the cattle, and the strange stillness that fell before a killer storm. He knew that a sudden warm spell in January was a warning, that a green tint to the northern sky meant trouble, that when the livestock crowded together and the birds went silent, he had hours at most to bring everyone in. Families who could read these signs survived. Those who couldn't were found in the spring. This was knowledge written in lives. Number 21. The Lifeline rope to the barn. During a prairie blizzard, a man could lose his way and freeze to death 20 feet from his own door, blinded by white. So your great-great-grandfather strung a rope from the house to the barn and held it hand over hand to feed the animals through the storm. It seems simple. It saved countless lives. The whiteout was total, the disorientation absolute, and that taut rope was the only thread between a warm kitchen and a frozen death in the snow. Number 20. Dugout shelter in the creek bank. Before the soddy was even finished, many families spent their first winter in a dugout carved straight into a creek bank or hillside, 3 walls of solid earth and a roof of poles and sod. It was dark and cramped, but the earth around it never let the temperature drop to killing cold. A dugout could be made by one family in a few weeks with nothing but a spade and determination, and it bought them the time to build something better. Number 19. Cornhusk and grass mattresses. Second pattern break. There were no mattress stores on the frontier. Your great-great-grandmother stuffed her ticking with dried corn husks, prairie grass, or straw, and refreshed it each harvest so the family slept warm and dry off the cold ground. A well-made husk tick was springy, insulating, and free, replaced entirely each fall with a new crop. The old stuffing went to the animals or the fire. Nothing was wasted, and everyone slept warm. Number 18. Plum thicket and wild fruit harvesting. The prairie looked barren to a stranger, but your great-great-grandmother knew every wild plum thicket, chokecherry stand, and buffalo berry patch within miles. She gathered them by the bucket and turned them into jellies, dried fruit, and winter stores that fought off the sickness that came from a winter of nothing but meat and bread. This was not foraging as a hobby. It was the family's only source of fruit, and knowing where and when to find it was a matter of health and survival. Number 17. Antelope and jackrabbit for the pot. When the cattle were too precious to eat, the prairie itself fed the family. Your great-great-grandfather hunted antelope, jackrabbit, prairie chicken, and waterfowl, and your great-great-grandmother knew how to make a tough old jackrabbit into a tender stew that fed ate. Every part was used, the meat eaten, the hide tanned, the bones boiled for broth. The open range was a larder for those who knew how to read it. Number 16. The hand-dug prairie well. Third pattern break. Water was everything on the plains, and the well drilling industry that later lobbied 41 states to require licensed contractors did not exist when your great-great-grandfather sank his own well by hand. He dug down through the prairie soil, lined the shaft with stone or brick, and reached the water table that no drought could fully empty. It was brutal, dangerous work, but it gave the family water that belonged to no company and required no monthly bill. The skill of finding water and reaching it safely is nearly gone now, regulated into the hands of licensed crews. Number 15. The windmill that pumped without electricity. Once the well was dug, the prairie wind did the lifting. Your great-great-grandfather raised a wooden windmill that pumped water up for the house, the garden, and the stock tank, powered by nothing but the endless plains wind. It needed grease and the occasional repair, but it asked for no fuel and no power line. A good windmill ran for decades, and the family that built and maintained its own never feared the pump going dry. Number 14. Curing meat with prairie salt and sun. Without refrigeration, the butchered steer or hog had to be preserved fast. Your great-great-grandmother rubbed the cuts in salt, hung them in the dry prairie air, and let the sun and wind do the curing. The arid plains climate was perfect for it, drawing the moisture out before the meat could spoil. Done right, that meat kept through summer, and the skill of judging the salt and the drying time was learned at a mother's elbow. Number 13. Tallow candles and grease lamps. The prairie night was absolute dark, and your great-great-grandmother made her own light from the fat of the animals the family raised, rendering tallow into candles or burning it in simple grease lamps. Nothing was bought. The light was dim by modern eyes, but plenty to mend by, read scripture by, and gather around. When the tallow was gone, the family went to bed with the sun, in rhythm with the land. The forgetting came fast. As the railroads brought lumber, coal, and store goods, the soddy and the dugout became something to be ashamed of. Codes declared the old shelters unfit. The skills that had conquered the most punishing landscape in America were dismissed as the desperation of poor people, and in a single generation, they went quiet. Here is your challenge. Pick one, just one. Learn to read the sky where you live. Find the wild fruit growing near you. Twist a bundle of hay and see how it burns. Tell me in the comments which one you'll try, and tell me if your people came off the prairie, because somebody in your family tree survived a winter using every trick on this list. That knowledge did not die. It just went quiet. It is time to start listening again.